We have a special offer for our faithful listeners. The promo code podcast20 takes 20% off the tuition for some of our e-learning online courses. The course lineup includes classics by Kenneth D. King, Pamela Leggett, and other trusted sewing instructors. You can count on Threads for expertise in these on-demand learning experiences. Learn at your own pace anytime you want to log in. Check out the course lineup at threadsmagazine.com/e-learning, and don't forget to apply the code podcast20 for your 20% discount. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sewing with Threads, the monthly podcast with the staff of Threads Magazine. I'm Janine Clegg, and I'm joined today by Pamela Howard. Hi, Pam.
Hey, how are you?
I am well. I just want to introduce you, Pamela. You're the owner of Pamela's Closet, and you specialize in teaching advanced garment construction techniques and ladies' couture tailoring and fitting. And you've been wonderful writing for us. So you've been a digital ambassador for us for 4 years. Awesome.
Can
And
you
you've
believe
also
it?
been, I know, I can't believe it. And you've been writing articles for the magazine, the print magazine as well. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. You're also a pattern tester for us for our pattern review
I
department,
am.
and you're a craftsy instructor. You have a wealth of knowledge, Pamela, and we appreciate all that you've done. I wanted to talk to you for a couple minutes, if we could, about how you've grown. Certainly in the last couple of years as a digital ambassador. I'm sure you've had a lot of interesting experiences writing the articles and doing the alterations. And maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the things that you've, sewn for us, and you've seen in your alterations business, that you've shared with us in your various posts that you've written. I know, gosh, there's been so many of them. You've done things on pants and jackets. I know that's your personal favorite.
Oh, yes, yes,
Maybe we can start
absolutely.
there.
Okay, great. My
Um,
favorite subject. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, good. Well, um, I want to find out if there are any particular trouble points that people have when they're making jackets that you've discovered. I mean, even with your students, and that maybe you can share with us on, you know, what have they done about it? What are the trouble points, and how do they handle them? And what do you tell them to do?
Well, first of all, I tell them to calm down
Always good.
because I mean, we're all friends here. Nobody is trying to make them feel as if they are not a smart person, because everyone who comes to a sewing class comes from a certain place in life, a certain thing that they did. It may not be that they were sewing their whole lives like pretty much I did. So I always let them know to just calm down. Nobody's here to judge you about what you know or that you don't know. We're all going to learn from each other throughout this class. If there are a few people in the class, they may have a different piece of fabric that they're working on, and you just kind of learn from each other. I always learn something new every time I teach a class. So that's the first thing, is to calm down. The next thing is, let's just take our time and make sure that this garment is going to fit you. So when we get started, we start with a muslin. Whenever I've done tailoring boot camps or anything like that, we start with the muslin and we sit in a circle and we troubleshoot the fit of everyone's garment so that they get to learn, maybe for themselves or for somebody else that they may fit at some point, um, how to troubleshoot it and how to fix it. Um, I am not pattern alt. Let's rephrase that. I don't alter patterns like some other instructors may, but that's just their way of doing it. I'm more of a drape fitter, so
Mhm.
it's intuitive and visual.
Right.
So we work out the fit that way, and people get to see that it's not a difficult process. It may take a little time, but we get to where we can have a garment that fits them really well, and then that transfers over into the fabric, and then we start sewing. The trouble points that people run into for jackets, especially with collars, is more like the latest post that I did, how to
Yes.
connect the collar where it joins the lapel. And because I'm such a perfectionist, I sometimes want to go back in and close up the little hole that may exist in between those two joins. But in one of those pictures that shows up on the Threads Insider, it might be a good thing to leave just a little opening there where when you turn that cloth back, you don't have a pinch. And that's what everybody seems to have trouble with, is that little bitty pinch or too much thread right in that little section. So
Right, that
it's
helps it
there.
lay better when you
It
turn the
helps it lay
collar
better.
over and lay it down. Right,
Yes.
right.
And another thing I tell them is you don't have to be the best sewist in the world, but if you're really great at pressing, it hides a multitude of issues. So I teach them, in addition to the sewing, I teach them how to press correctly and how to use the tools of pressing. So, and pressing for me is a Zen like experience. I like the steam, I like the pressure, I love using the tools, and you end up solving all the world's problems while you're pressing, as far as I'm concerned. So just little bits and pieces like that, and throughout the classes we solve all the problems
I
with
love
it.
it. Well,
Yeah.
on the pressing issue, so, are there particular pressing tools that you can't do without in your sewing room?
Um, Three for sure.
Okay.
A tailor's ham, because that helps with the shaping of a garment. Because women are curvy, they aren't flat like a man's jacket might be in certain places or most places. Um, a point presser, which helps to open up the seams in the collars or the front facing where it joins the front jacket, um, collars, lapels, and also a clapper to get the steam out of the fabric so that the fabric will lay flat as you're pressing along. So at least those three things you should have.
Okay. And you didn't mention a specific kind of iron. Do you think do you have a preference on a type of iron, or is that a personal preference thing for people and they can choose just basically any steam iron?
I think, well, for me, since I'm a professional, I like a gravity feed iron. I won't name any specific brand,
Brands, yeah,
but you just have to make sure that whatever you can afford, whatever you have, won't leak,
yeah,
because that will ruin some fabric, depending on the fabric you've chosen. Having a water, splotch the fabric, you can't get that stain out sometimes. So if you can find a way to make sure that the iron won't leak onto your fabric, that's great. The thing about the gravity feed iron that I like so much is that it is a dry iron until you push that button, and that's when the steam comes out of it. But until then, you won't get any water leakage or steam on your fabric. Oh,
yeah,
and an organza press cloth, that
right,
helps.
right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hmm.
yes, it's nice to have complete control over your steam, where it goes
Yes.
and how much comes out and when.
Right. Right. That's
Yeah.
right. Very important.
Yeah, I can attest to that leaking problem. That is it haunts me.
Yes. Yes. It will haunt you.
That's right, that's right. Well, and, that yes, we have to make a note in the show notes about that last, post that we you were referring to with regard to the peak lapel and attaching it, attaching it there. That is an issue, I think, for a lot of people. You're right. Some of the other, articles you've done, online that we've shared online have to do with pants fitting, and I know
Hmm.
pants fitting is a challenge for a lot of folks. You've done stories on fitting at the waist, fitting at the
Hmm.
seat, hemming, cuffing. Um, Do you find one of those, types of alterations is more common with your clients?
I would say more common than any of the others would be a waist alteration.
Mhm.
And the thing about ready to wear and even better ready to wear, which I've been um, fortunate to be able to alter from a lot of my customers, is that the first place that you go to alter a pair of pants is through the back waist. And it could be only a waist and part of a seat, and sometimes it ends up being waist into the seat. But the good thing about better ready to wear is that it may have a center back seam in the waistband. If it doesn't, you just draw your chalk mark up the center from the center back seam and cut through that waistband to create a two-piece waistband there. One of the other places for alteration on better ready to wear would be some of them have even a side seam through the waistband of a pair of pants.
Right.
So that if you cannot get all of what you need taken out of the center back seam, you can go in through the two side seams in order
Okay.
to get the waist. I think one of the main mistakes that people make is, and the only way that I can describe it is like when you're merging into traffic, when you've got that gore that you shouldn't go across or else you're going to get a ticket from some police officer,
Right.
is to stay and merge into the nearest lane. When you alter a pair of pants and you go from taking it in to nothing, you should merge instead of having a deep um, curve back into the original seam, because that will cause it will wreak a lot of havoc to the outside of the way the garment looks until you just gently guide yourself back into that. But that comes with experience.
Mhm.
You learn it over time how you should just sort of merge back into that. Um,
Now, do you have a kind of a general idea in your head about for how long, how many inches, or the depth for that tapering or that merging, as you call it, back into the original seam? Does it I guess maybe it depends on how much you're taking it in or letting it out will
it
determine.
depends
Yeah.
that too. I'm sorry. It's determined by that person's body,
Mhm.
and you continue to pin your guidelines like you're pinning where that seam is going to be. So you do your pin and maybe use a safety pin if it's a waistline, because straight pins don't hold, and then taper, 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 taper until you get to nothing. When you get on the inside of the garment and you chalk mark where those pin marks are, then make sure that you see the original seam line and merge to make sure that those pins make sense and follow into that.
Okay. Now when you're cutting the waistband, a lot of times there's a lot of interfacing and, support on in the waistband area and a lot of bulk, and if you're taking it in especially, what do you do with all of that, extra bulk? How do you usually handle that? Is it just a case of abutting the edge as opposed to getting it into the new seam?
If it's a band roll inside,
You're right.
I will make sure that there's at least an inch on each side if I'm taking it in enough to include that,
Yeah.
because we're people. We expand and we contract. So you want to be able to let it out again and still have that interfacing or band roll available in that waistband piece so that you can use it again. And an inch on each side at least will not cause a lot of bulk. I usually sew straight through it and press it flat open.
Okay.
Sometimes people trim away too much and they end up with very little seam allowance and they have nowhere to go if something happens. Some of my clients I know um, buy a lot of clothes and they donate a lot of clothes because they're in social circles that they can't be seen in that same garment too many times. So what I'll do when I alter for them is to leave as much of the original seam and press it well so that when they donate it, if someone else needs the original size that it came in, then they still have that seam allowance there available to them to let that garment back out.
Yeah, that's very
So,
thoughtful. Yeah,
well, I try to, in everything that I do for others, is to be thoughtful in my approach to what the end result is going to be and the comfort of the person wearing it. So I just, and to make sure that it's pressed well enough um, that none of that is seen.
right. Okay.
So
When you have your clients ever asked you what they should be looking for when they're buying ready-made garments? What do you consider to be some of the hallmarks of a good ready-made garment? There are so many because this fast fashion these days, the
mhm.
garments are not well made and they're not easy to alter, I'm sure. And so I'm wondering what you might tell your clients as they are purchasing new clothing.
I ask them to look for garments that have more seam lines in them because that's more opportunities for fitting. If you have a front and a back, and the person, I have one client who's very curvy, but she may buy something that has a front and a back and straight side seams. So I think I did a post on or an article on how to alter or fit a straight garment and turn it into a curvy garment,
Right, on subtle shaping, yes, right, I
subtle
remember that,
shaping.
yeah.
Hmm.
That was a
So
great article, yeah.
thank you. And so what ends up happening is I stand them in front of the mirror. I tell them pins don't cost anything. Once you do it, it's going to cost you again if you want me to redo it. But I'll and we all laugh because I love my customers. We pin it out and they get to see the new shape. And once we agree, then I go on and do the alteration. And sleeve length is very important. That particular customer I just mentioned
Yeah,
is petite. She's about 5'2". So anything that she may purchase will be for 5'5" and above. So we proportion her garments, her sleeve lengths, to make sure that they don't make her look like she's wearing um, clothes that are 10 sizes too big for her. So
right.
it's all proportioned for her.
Do you find that your clients are asking for clothes to be a little tighter? I was having a conversation yesterday with a professor at a school that teaches fashion design. She said a
Hmm.
lot of her students are not understanding fitting and that they think the tighter it is, the better it fits, which is not always the case. And I'm wondering if you are finding similar things when you're talking to your clients that they want it tighter, tighter, tighter.
They may want it tighter, but I'll tell them I won't do it tighter because well, it's important to me that once they're out in the world and they tell someone where they got this alteration done, and I'll tell them, don't tell them I did it. If you if you want me to fit it this way, I'll do it, but don't tell anybody I did that because we're talking about it now. And my advice to you is not to go that tight. Okay, Pam. All right, let's do it your way. Okay. So we take it out a little bit.
So maybe we should explain why not having it so tight is not such a good idea. Why not make it tight? Maybe I'll ask that question. It may be obvious to some people, but maybe we need to discuss a little bit to explain why tight is not always the best choice.
Well, they trust me because I've been working with them a long time and they know that I'm very honest, but not mean honest. And I'll say to them, "Do you want to look like a sausage?" And they'll say, "Well, no, I don't really want to look like that." And I'll say, "Well, if I ask them two questions. Do you want a stand-up dress or one that you'll be able to sit down in?"
That's a good way to put it, yes.
So I tell them now I can do it so that when you are standing there holding whatever glass of whatever you're drinking or whatever canapé you're eating, you will look fabulous in it, but you will not be able to sit down in this dress or whatever. And I ask them, "Are you gonna be able to sit at the party you're going to in this, the way I have it pinned?" And they'll say, "No." And I'll say, "Okay, well, let's let it out a little bit because I want you to look great and be comfortable all at the same time."
Which is possible. It is very
Which is
possible to do both of those things,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's kind of a deterrent because they know, and I have a chair, just like a desk chair in my sewing room right now, and I ask them to please sit. And if that pin starts popping out that I put in where they want me to put it in, I'll say, "Nope, that's not going to work.
Mm.
Let's let it out a little bit. How about that?" And we generally agree and we go with it.
Well, and knits are a little bit more comfortable than wovens, and they stretch a little bit more. So, in altering knits, is there any more leeway than with wovens when you're dealing with, the tightness factor?
Well, if they're purchased knits and they are unlined, because as you know, you've been working with me long enough to know that I really like lining my
Yes.
knits. Um, if you get tighter, it's going to start hugging and and holding on to whatever it's touching. And most of them are ladies of a certain age, and they don't want things clinging to them. So I always make sure to fit so that it just drapes over the body. And I said, "You're going to have somebody ask you, 'Did you lose 10 pounds?' if it just drapes over you as opposed to clinging to you." So they're very happy to go with that because nobody wants anyone to say, "Oh, have you gained weight?" Because that's insulting. So we go with the best look. My goal is to always have them leave here happy and looking great in whatever it is they purchase.
And I'm remembering, last year, 2022, for our luxury loungewear challenge that you participated in, you made a whole, um, ensemble, more than one outfit. It could have been an easily a wardrobe, my goodness, the overachiever in Pamela.
Oh, yeah, that's me. That's me.
And those garments were absolutely beautiful, and the
Thank
Threads
you.
audience voted you the winner.
Well, thank you. I couldn't believe it.
No, I could because those garments were beautiful and, seeing them in person, they were even more beautiful than we could have even shown in the photos,
Thank you.
and, they're really gorgeous, and I was so happy to see that people recognized that, and I'm sure they fit you beautifully because, like you say, they were lined and, you used a
Mhm.
stable knit, and they were softly tailored. There were 2 jackets, I believe, and
Yes. Mhm.
yes, it was really, really well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope you're wearing those outfits. There were multiple outfits.
Well, yeah, I have worn, the animal print, um, jacket, which was the Sewing Workshop San Diego, and the top, the tank to match. I did have an occasion to go to that I actually did wear that, so yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
beautiful.
fun to wear. Thank you, and it's so comfortable to wear too because of the linings in them.
Yes,
That helps with the comfort level.
absolutely, absolutely. So
Thank you.
what kinds of linings do you use for your knits?
You'd be surprised. Well, I live in a small town, and the only fabric shops available to me are Joann and Hobby Lobby. And our Joann store is a smaller one, but they seem to have really decent um, and good quality fabric there. So I choose bathing suit lining with
Mhm,
Lycra. And also, there's one that's a poly and lycra knit that I can get either there, but usually at Hobby Lobby, and they call it travel knit.
mhm,
And it's only about $4.99, $5.99 a yard. And so it's just a matte sort of jersey knit.
yeah.
And I just use it as a lining for just about everything that I make.
Now, do you usually choose, a stretch that is about equal to the, fashion fabric, the outer fabric, or do you pick one that has a little more stretch than your
Um,
outer fabric?
Usually I try to find something that has a little bit less stretch than the outer fabric
Mhm.
because I want to make sure that it doesn't cling to the body.
Yeah.
It doesn't stretch more than the outer because sometimes you can buy some really good quality knits, but they have quite a bit of stretch.
Yes.
And this to me is considered a stay, where in couture you might hand sew a piece of organza somewhere or um, underline something with silk organza to make it the fabric stay. Well,
Mhm.
to me, in a knit, translating it into a knit garment, this to me is considered a stay.
Right. Okay.
And so I just use those to make sure that they just kind of smooth over the body, and then the outer fabric can do what it's going to do.
Now, when your clients come to you and ask you, what you consider to be the hallmarks of a knit ready-to-made garment, is that any different from what you tell them about woven woven fabric garments? Because, with the woven fabric garments, you talked about seams,
Mhm.
something that has a lot of seams that's easy to alter. What about for knits? Is that important too?
To me, it's important because some of the more, if you want to use the word expensive, are going to be made with seam allowances in them
Mm,
instead of all being sewn on a serger
yes.
or
Okay.
a thread serger because that ends up with a garment with about a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance everywhere in it.
Right.
And so there is no alteration with it unless you open it up and insert another piece of fabric in it to widen it. I never ever assemble my knits with a serger. I always use a sewing machine. I always use pretty much a one and a half. I'm sorry, yeah, one and a half width and length,
Okay.
or two width zigzag.
Okay.
Because I have found in many different types of knits with variable stretch to them that that setting generally works for everything. Um, when I got a machine years ago, it had a lightning stitch on there. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. I made the mistake of using that. And
I like
it's
that, huh?
uh, because I had to make a change in it. Can you imagine taking a lightning stitch out
Oh, no,
of
no,
a
that's a little
knit?
bit of a nightmare.
So that experience said,
Oh,
find another setting for this machine so that, and I was so excited to use it. I said, oh, this is great. A lightning stitch for knits. Oh no, a lightning stitch for knits. Now, not everybody, not everybody is going to agree with me on that. That's okay. But I had to come up with another setting so that if I made a mistake, I would not ruin fabric in order to get that stitch out.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much, and I use 5/8 inch seam allowances.
Mm,
And I finished with a serger,
okay.
either all on one, all together as one and pressed to one side,
Right,
or individual
on
finished
each side.
seams and pressed open. But to balance it out with a lining that I'm going to put in there, I may press one seam back and the lining seam forward so that when they hit, they do that.
Right. They're not laying on top of each other, creating more bulk.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. That's smart. See, all these great tips. These are the kinds of tips that you've included in all of your posts. It's been
Oh,
amazing. I've
thank
learned
you.
so much. I've got my nephew's tuxedo, who his jacket,
Oh,
sleeve needs to be lengthened for the prom, and
okay.
I'll be consulting that post that you did about
Okay.
lengthening jacket sleeves. Once
It
again, it's
helps.
always good for a refresher, even if you think you know it. It's good to go back and take a look. So I appreciate all of that. Oh,
Thank you.
So I wanna know if you have any alterations projects or have done any alterations projects, like dreaded ones or ones that you wish, you could not have to do. You got anything in your closet right now you're working on like that?
I do, and
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna need a cold compress for that one. I have done so much work for one of the ladies, and her daughter and, her whole family are attending a wedding for a niece or someone in their family. So she came up, I met them at the car, and she pulls this dress out of the car, and I wanted to pass out.
Oh, no.
Yes, it is a silk chiffon dress with bugle beads and other beads everywhere on it, and it needs to be hemmed about 5 inches.
Oh. Oh, boy.
Yeah, I'm looking at you now, and yes, I agree. So so I'm gonna have to plan, an early morning and through an entire day, and it weighs a ton because of
Oh,
all
no.
of that on it.
Beating,
So
yeah.
and it needs to be taken up at the shoulders
Oh,
because
boy.
she's more of a petite height. So
Mhm.
I let them know ahead of time. That is all gonna have to be done by hand. I don't plan to cut a lot of that away. I plan to hand stitch it so that it hides itself underneath,
Yeah.
um, the shoulders. The front of it is a little deeper than she would like, so I'm gonna have to hand stitch that so that it comes together a little in the front, so
Right.
that is not as deep a V in the front.
Right.
And then I am going to have to cut off that bottom because it's way too much fabric to hem. So that means I'm gonna have to get a few cups and take off beads.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you have to remove those before you start hemming, right. Mhm.
Yes. I'm
Oh,
tired
okay.
already. I'm
Yeah.
tired. I'm tired. I haven't even started it.
Oh, boy. Alright. Well, if you have any advice once you're done with it, please keep us in mind
I
because we all would
will.
like to like to hear how you handle that one. Boy,
Well, as a matter
that's a
of fact,
toughie.
I may just go in and take pictures as I usually do.
Yes, you do. You're so good at that. Oh,
And
thank you.
I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at it. But I will take pictures of the process. I think I'll hold on to that for you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, and speaking of pictures, you have been beefing up your Instagram account, and I've seen so many wonderful shots of garments that you've made, you've shared with on your channel. And please tell us your channel and uh, tell us a little bit about what you've been including.
Okay. Well, I am the last person on earth to join Instagram. So let's just get that. I put it on my phone about 2 years ago, and I never did anything with it. And I said to my sister and a couple of friends, I said, Instagram, because I'm not a social media person. I said, Instagram is more of a visual situation, right? And they said, well, yeah, because they know more than me. I don't know anything. So I said, so do you think I should go on and do that? They said, well, why not? And
Absolutely.
so I decided to just go through my closet and take a picture of everything that I've made over the years and just put it up on Instagram. And if people like it, okay. If they don't, it's there for people to see. So
Well, I recommend everyone check it out because you've got
thank
some
you.
beautiful garments there. And you're always wonderful about sharing your experiences too.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for that.
It's at
Pamela,
Pam's Closet Inc.
yes, that's right. Thank you for
At
telling me.
Pam's. I couldn't write Pamela's, it wouldn't take, so I had to do at Pam's Closet Inc. So
Yes,
that's how you find me.
yes. All right. And your website as well. People can go to your website and
Oh,
find out
oh,
about
that
your
too.
classes. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And the address on your website is?
www.pamelasclosetinc.com. And in the future, as soon as I am able to, I would love to start doing my tailoring boot camps again.
Ah, yes.
And something that I've always wanted to get off the ground, but I never actually did, was a knits wardrobe in a weekend
Oh,
class,
awesome.
so
Sign
they
me
can
up.
make. Oh, will do. It would be to make 3 pieces, a skirt, a top, and then maybe a cardigan,
Oh,
something they can
nice.
go home with, and then they can add to it and, find
Build on it,
something,
right.
build on it, yeah.
Yes,
So
I like that.
that's shirt making, um, in a weekend or whatever, 3 or 4 days. They may finish, may not. But things like that that I used to be able to teach, and then we moved. So I'd like to be, and then the zombie apocalypse showed up. So
Yeah. Oh, I know,
we're
I
coming
know.
back out of that. So it's safer now. And
Yes,
so
absolutely.
that's what I'd like to be able to do.
Ah, well, thank you, Pamela, and thank you for sharing again all your tips and tricks and
Thank you.
step by steps for altering garments. And be sure, everyone, to check out episode 20 of our Sewing with Threads podcast. Um, Pamela talked about fabrics in that one. That was so educational. That really was helpful for a lot of people. So
Thank you. And
I
it's been an
appreciate it.
honor, Janine. It's been an honor to do this. Thank you
Likewise.
for including me as a digital ambassador. I can't thank you enough. It's been great.
Well, Pamela's stepping away from digital ambassadorship, but we know we will continue to read more in the print magazine, and we certainly will be sharing those posts as well online. So thank you again. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Sewing with Threads. Thank you to our guest for joining us, and thanks to all of you for listening. Please remember to send your comments, questions, and suggestions to th@taunton.com. And please like, comment, and subscribe wherever you're listening. It helps others find our podcast. Until next time, keep on sewing with threads.